Hi, and welcome to episode 4 of the Get Hitched live wedding show. With us today, we have two really great guests from the photography industry. We basically have Dragana Rankovic and we have Therese Debono, two great photographers, and it's going to be a very exciting show. I'll also be joining me, will also be Jonathan, my partner, who I'm going to be introducing into the stream right now. So, welcome to episode 4. I hope you enjoy it. Hello, guys. You're slowly coming into the stream. Okay.
Hello.
How's
Hi,
it going?
everybody.
Hey, hey.
Hello, ladies. Hello, Ben. Hello, everyone watching.
Hi, boys and girls.
How are you today?
Okay.
Very good. Yeah,
Yeah.
very good. Good energy, positive thoughts.
Yes,
Looking
yes.
forward
I'm
to this.
excited about this as well.
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely. It's a good thing you guys are doing. The more information out there, the better, I think.
Thank you.
Well done.
Something that a lot of people don't know, of course, is that Dragana was actually the wedding photographer for my wedding, which
Very
I found through Get Hitched. And it was actually 2 years today, Dragana.
Was it?
This is
Okay.
the anniversary.
Okay.
Exactly.
Oh, wow. Happy anniversary, man.
Happy
You and
anniversary.
Gail. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a complete coincidence, and I just
Wow.
realized because Gail mentioned it this morning, so
So cool,
pretty
man.
cool.
Here you go. I get to see you again.
Yes,
Cool.
fun times again.
Awesome. Awesome.
Okay, cool. So, happy anniversary, John. Can we start with Dragana and Therese telling us a bit about yourselves, your background as Dragana and Therese, and your photography background, your personal and photography background?
Okay. Therese, you want to start?
Okay. So basically, me and Dragana share birthdays. Now that we're talking about dates.
Okay.
Okay. I think we met about 8 years ago, both of us. I was shooting a wedding, and there was this girl, Dragana, looking at me and smiling at me. So I think we just gravitated towards each other and became friends. We share a studio together, and my photography started roughly about 12 years ago, but it started getting serious about 10 to 8 years ago.
Mhm.
I do a number of commercial work. However, my main commercial work is photography, as in terms of portraiture. I do weddings, and I also do interior photography.
Mhm.
And I also do my own research using the medium of photography. I do my academic research as well. So I am caught in between two worlds.
Cool.
Cool.
Okay.
Very interesting.
Well, for me, I've been in Malta actually just 7 years, about a week ago. So another anniversary, kind of.
Happy anniversary.
Thanks. We're just gonna have lots of anniversaries.
So we met about 7 years ago then. Yeah.
We met 7 years ago. As soon as I arrived to Malta, and I met Therese on a wedding, and I was just, I was like, I want to do what she does.
So she was
kind
the
of-
inspiration, huh?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I had just
Aw.
moved to the island. I didn't know a single soul, I was just like, I want to be her friend, kind of. and I kind of, before that, I was traveling in Asia for about 6 years and just kind of shooting and, enjoying doing lots of travel photography. And then I decided to move to Malta and settle in on this island. And the first couple of years, I didn't pick up photography right away because I was brand new. But since 5 years ago, I've been doing this full time and mainly focusing on portraiture with some commercial clients, as well as people with their personal brands or business brands and so on, and weddings as well as events. And throughout this process, as I met Therese and Ian Abdullah, another wedding photographer.
Yeah, yes. Our cool
we-
photographer.
He's super cool. And so we decided that we were gonna, start a studio together. So now we run a studio from Birkirkara, which we're not really in there right now, but And from there, we kind of have a co-working, co-sharing place with with studio services as well,
Yes.
basically. And we also help each other when it comes to sharing work or sharing clients or helping each other, with the different shoots and so on. So it's a really nice thing to have, a network and to have people that you trust and people you really enjoy working with, because I feel like the industry is very small. So I feel like the more the merrier, the more we can help each other and join forces,
Yeah, totally.
the better we can help clients as well. So that was the reason behind the studio and co-working.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's interesting to look at it that way, because some might see other photographers as competitors, and but you guys actually enjoy the collaboration process, and you get to learn from each other, help each other, and that is how you both grow. And being
Exactly.
familiar with both your work, you guys are phenomenal photographers, for sure.
Thank you, Jonathan. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. No,
Like,
That was actually
I think both Dragan and myself, and I have to include Ian Abdullah here because he's one of our co-workers. We all three of us believe that if you collaborate, it's better than being over-competitive with each other, because if you're too competitive and you start getting jealous, it's not going to get you anywhere. But we are three people with three very individual styles, and yet we still make it work. And it's just us collaborating and being funny, and also sometimes getting on each other's nerves, but that is normal because we are three artists trying to, getting all things done. But it works.
Yeah.
So it works.
Definitely.
It's all part of the process, and as long as the main goal in the end is to do good work, and it is the arguments for the right reasons, then I am all for it. It's not about someone just bowing their head all the time. And Ben and I, we argue all the time, and I love it because great things come out of those discussions. And
Exactly.
when you have someone challenging what you think and how to go about certain things, it's always a net positive. So yeah, I'm all for it.
Of course.
Totally.
that's actually a question that is further along, is like in terms of collaboration. So in your studio, you are three photographers, or there are different disciplines part of the studio as well?
Well, we are sharing also the studio with the Panda Design. So they have a section of the studio where they do the graphic and the illustration work, and we have kind of taken over about 70% of the space, where we actually have a physical studio and 3 desk spaces. So we're actually 5 people in the actual space in total, and with and that also helps to again collaborate with a design company, because they also need photography for their clients. So it's kind of everything becomes under the same roof. Which obviously gives more power to everybody, and more knowledge and more sharing of everything. So it's just a positive thing, and I believe especially in today's market where renting a space is also quite expensive. So that's another reason to join together and work together and not isolate yourself. And besides that, as a photographer, it's a very kind of lonely profession. You're just kind of there on your own with your best friend, the camera. So it's nice to just kind of have a space where you can unload and discuss and share your ideas and get help with your ideas. So besides just sharing the space, it's also having co-workers in a way as well, which is important.
Okay.
Totally with you.
Cool. So thanks for that background, and I hope the studio does really well for you. I wanted to lead into the kind of the first question, is that, given the situation, how are you holding up personally, and how is the studio and your other work, how are things being affected right now?
So the studio is closed. Okay, so we have just changed studio location from one studio to another, and we barely spent a month in it, and now it's closed.
Wow.
So that is a little bit sad, because it's been done up to our specifications. We had new prints about to hang and all this, And then when everything closed down, and since I also lecture photography, so even schools closed down. I can talk for myself. I found myself, having to, understand what is happening, and suddenly having the realization that this might go into May, into June, and what about our weddings? I think Dragana and myself have gone through the same thing, where I have emailed my clients before they actually contacted me, telling them that, hey, given the situation, if you are intending to postpone, kindly do factor me in, because I was very happy to be your photographer and I still wish to be your photographer. So, I really tried to make the clients understand that I really still want to be their photographer, and before choosing a date, it would be good if you ask me whether I'm available. And, and all the complications that arise with the deposit and refundable, non-refundable. So it was a little bit of a hectic period. And now we're like suspended, all of us waiting, when is our next job? And then I look through the calendar and I say, it would have been their wedding today. Oh, it would have been the other couple's wedding today. And you're there at home.
It's tough. It's tough for sure. We've heard a lot of stories, and it's actually amazing that you were proactive about it and not waiting for them to contact you, and you actually contacted them.
I think it's very important as photographers and as entrepreneurs, really and truly, that when something like this happens, it's overwhelming. You're gonna panic. You're gonna get anxious. But the first thing that I recommend is get on it, try and do something about it, because, just standing there and waiting for things to happen, what if things might not happen? So it's like you make them happen, or you set the wheels in motion. And I believe that even you, Dragana, have done the same thing as I have done.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, initially the first few weeks, once this situation started happening, I did get in touch. A lot of couples started contacted me, and they were quite nervous and stressed out about it. And it's okay to be stressed out and feeling upset about it, because it was basically, a shock to everybody. Yeah, and everything that you planned is just kind of turned upside down. And it's normal to have these feelings, but most of the people, most of the couples that contacted me in the beginning, they moved their weddings until end of the year. And but then the weddings are happening now in May got postponed to like October, November, December. But then the weddings that are happening in June, July, August, most of the couples are postponing until next year. And that's kind of the experience that I've been having. You guys have spoken about this during your other live shows, because there's still uncertainty what's going to happen end of the year with the weddings. So for now, I hope these couples don't have to move their wedding twice, from end of the year to next year.
Yeah, I hope so. However, as general feedback, all the couples that I have contacted, they were like, they did seek recommendation from me as a photographer, like, should I move it, should I not? And in all fairness, it was a little bit difficult, to give advice, because I wouldn't know how far this pandemic was. However, one thing that I felt really good in doing was being there as support for the clients as well. Because somehow the clients that I get are clients that usually end up being friends as well. I don't know what it is with this. So, the fact that they choose you, the fact that they trusted in you, and the fact that they gave you a deposit, then it stands. I mean, it's obvious that me as a photographer, I have to be there for them in this situation. Yeah. I think I only lost 2 weddings from this year's cohort because, unfortunately, the couple didn't contact me. They just contacted me after I sent the email. They just contacted me with the details for the new wedding date, and I was like, I'm really sorry, I can't do it. But for the rest, it was very amicable. Everyone, collaborated. We found the dates. We found different options, and at least I only lost 2 instead of the majority of the bookings.
Yeah. In regards to your comment you mentioned about you becoming friends, that is a very important aspect of being a wedding photographer, and not just a photographer, because having a relationship and you guys making them feel comfortable throughout, before the wedding and also through the wedding, that makes a huge impact in the experience.
Of course.
And I can talk about Dragana because, like I said, she did photograph our wedding, and at no point was there any hassle. It was
Exactly.
pretty chill, laid back, and you can actually get to enjoy the day. So it's when hiring a photographer, it's not about who takes the best snaps, and it's the overall experience that come with it.
Customer service, you know,
Yes,
it's best.
But it's a very intimate situation, you know. You're there on the most important, you know, day of many couples' lives.
Yeah,
you are there with the bride, you know, in intimate situations when she's getting dressed, you know, and the groom as well. You're basically there every step of the way. So if you don't click and you're not, your personality doesn't match, you know, you as a photographer can't work well, and you're not going to get the results that you're looking from the couple either.
Our work becomes much harder.
Exactly.
Because if there is some sort of disagreement or just friction, which is like, you know, which makes us feel intimidated or even annoyed or nervous, you know, it's like, oh no, your mind wouldn't be in the right frame to shoot. We always shoot regardless what happens. I mean, that is something which goes through and through. But I would have to agree with Dragana for sure. The work will be different.
Yeah.
When you take time to meet the couple, actually when they're booking you, to send emails when you're getting closer to the date, and even the way you greet each other, and I don't know, I really end up being very close to both the bride and groom, and it's fun actually.
Yes.
Because they, and even the fact that you feel that they trust you, you know, you feel even more motivated to do a really great job for these guys.
Exactly.
And that is why we always recommend to suppliers and even especially to couples that you should meet your suppliers. Do not just focus on the quote that you receive initially.
Totally.
The first thing, quotes can be easily adjusted depending on your needs, and you shouldn't look at one price. And at the end of the day, even though weddings do become expensive and they have a limited budget, for the right service provider, 100 euros here and there will not make any difference, right? It's not the money, but the overall experience. That is what you need to focus on. So when you click with someone and there's a good vibe and the work energy, and it doesn't matter if it's a photographer, videographer, it can be even a caterer. Because when issues arise and you have a good relationship, you can easily sort it out and talk it out.
Totally.
And it's a combination of two things, you know, you like the work and you like the person, you know. I always recommend when people get in touch with me, I was like, let's meet, let's have a coffee, you know, let's sit down and see how we get along, because sometimes I might not click with a couple, you know, and I might feel like maybe I'm not the right person for this wedding, you know, maybe they're looking for something that I cannot provide, or my style doesn't provide that, maybe they're more traditional, maybe they're, you know, this or that. So then I would, you know, in that case, recommend maybe another photographer who could, you know, meet their needs. So that's why it's important to meet a person.
In fact, having said this, I tell my clients before they actually, you know, sometimes they just come for a chat and then leave. And I tell them, listen, this is it. This is me. I am going to be the person you're going to see the most in front of you on your wedding day. It's not your mom. It's not your father. It's not your best friends. It's the photographer and the videographer if you're going to hire one. So make sure that you decide that you're okay with this, you know, with this movement of hands, with this voice and with this face here. But and then they usually hire me because probably they think that I'm a little bit crazy. But yeah, it's really important to get along with the people. And really, the connection is important.
But it's interesting, just following on that conversation, I get a lot of couples saying that we don't want that photographer to hassle us during the wedding. We don't want the photographer to be that traditional photographer who's gonna make us stand here or do this or pose this way. You know, most couples really want to get away from that. And And that's why they, I guess, seek out the photographers that maybe fit their style versus, other.
Exactly.
Yeah, there are cases where your jobs would be to actually create the moment, but for the most part, it's about capturing the moment, right? Being there at the right times, and even places where the couples are not, because the couples can see only a certain part of the wedding, but there's a whole lot of things going on with their families and so on. So when you get to see the pictures and you see a group having fun and which you haven't seen, that's also an amazing part of what you do.
Totally. Well, we run around quite a bit. I mean, I think, quite frankly, those of you who are out there, photographers who want to become wedding photographers, make sure that you're fit. Because if you're not fit, forget it. You have to spend 9-10 hours.
Or maybe they can
legs.
get fit by doing so,
Yeah, maybe, yes, but it's called fatigue. No, but make sure, strong legs, strong core, so you keep your back okay, and you can shoot, But for example, I think you remember me, Dragana, about 2 years ago, I had a tennis elbow injury because of heavy camera. And it was really hard working with a tennis elbow injury because it took 8 months to heal. So, you need to factor in all these things. But yes, we have to be all over the place in a wedding, not just stuck to the bride and groom. That is true.
It's interesting where you touched on like what it entails to be a photographer, where you mentioned that it's, and I would dare say it's like one of the most intimate, right, forms of photography. And then you're looking at like newborns and all that. But weddings is one of the most pivotal parts of anybody's life. So you're literally there in their bedroom, Does that have an effect on, from your experience, the different photography styles that people choose? And like, can you tell us a bit about the different styles that there are? And if you see that there are any commonalities in what people, if the stereotype, if you will, in a positive way, I mean, but what people choose as their favorite photography style and how they usually react as a person, like, I don't want the photographer to get in the way or anything of like that. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
You go, Dee. You go. Yeah. And I will add on later.
Exactly. I mean, from my experience, from the couples that I get, and I guess that's based on the work that they see on my site and so on, is they always like the documentary approach, the non-invasive approach of photography. They don't want to be bothered during the wedding. They want me to capture a natural moment, the sweet moments, the smiles, the things that are happening, that are fun around in the wedding day. And I think in terms of styles, people choose you because of your style. They don't expect you to shoot in any other way. And every photographer has their own style of shooting, and I guess every couple matches with that type of style in the end. But me personally, I believe in not being in the way and not being, doing my own agenda during the wedding. So I'm not there to create a situation where I'm going to get the shot that I want. I'm basically there to facilitate the situation, enable the situation to kind of present itself where I know that I'm going to get a nice shot from it without stepping on anybody's toes and without being in the way of people enjoying themselves. And that's kind of, I would call it a bit more of a documentary photojournalistic way of approach without it being too structured and too posy and too strict in its way.
Okay.
I wanted to also add, I follow Dragana in the sense that my style is more documentary and it's more about capturing the moment. Now, in order for you to be that style of photographer, you can't have much interruptions. What do I mean? It's like you have to be 100% focused on what is going to happen. And maybe people might say, but it's normal what's going to happen. She's getting out of church, she's going into the car, etc. But the thing is this: what if it's not a car? What if it's a horse? What if it's not a normal car? What if it's a sports car? What if this and what if that? So you have to be very much in tune to what is happening there and then. Sometimes during weddings, I might meet people I know, and I wouldn't have time to say hello to them because I can't say hello to them during crucial moments. Okay, when it comes to traditional photography, personally, I'm not a traditional photographer, so I don't follow the. When I approach weddings, for me, each and every couple, okay, are very different. So sometimes couple would see my work and they say, hey, Therese, we really loved that album. And I'm like, yeah, but you're getting married in the evening. So I won't be, even though it's the same venue, there is no way that I can match certain photography. Plus, it's a matter, we shoot, it's like, it is inspiration, especially we get inspired a lot by light. Practically, what inspires us is light, how light is falling, etc. And maybe some sort of background. But the thing is this, we tend to go a lot with the flow. And we have to be very sensitive to what is happening. Now, if there isn't that balance, our work will not match. A case which is very, very, very important, and I feel that that couples really have to point out is this: videographers and photographers. So some people go for a photographer who is on the contemporary side, and then they will choose a videographer who's traditional. Okay, now the way videographers work, a traditional videographer will set the scene. So he will tell the groom, now walk, get the jacket, and play a little bit around with the bow tie while they are hanging. So a traditional photographer is going to tell step by step what the groom and bride have to do. That, for me, is totally limiting me. That is not allowing me to flow. That is not allowing me to move. Whereas then there are those videographers, okay, who move with you. Sometimes in a wedding, it's like I'm joined to the videographer because we are, moving along because we're seeing the same scene. And like that, couples, when they receive their work, okay, even though they're going to have the photographer's work, the videographer's work, different settings, presets, etc., they will still get the same feeling. Yeah. Whereas if you have very opposing videographers and photographers, okay, over there, then you're gonna get two very different results, and you can't blame the photographer nor the videographer. You just have to choose carefully. And in this case, I recommend that you actually ask the photographer, hey, listen, do you recommend anyone who has a similar style, for example? Yeah,
I think that very helpful. As much as we can talk about the style of the photographer, there's also the style of the couple.
Of course, totally.
You have couples that are very conservative, for example, and they're very traditional in their way, but they might like the work of, more of a free-flowing style. So sometimes, you have couples that maybe don't express their feelings towards each other, or they're shy about it, or in front of, crowds and so on. Maybe they're not as free in front of the camera. They're a bit more constrained and so on. So for us, you have to work with that as well, to be able to get that freedom, that comfort from the couple, to make them feel comfortable for you to accomplish the work that they actually hired you for, because they don't know really how to get there. They just know what they're like, their end result. So it's, it's your job to kind of get them to that point where they feel free with themselves, and they feel it's okay to be loving and caring and kissing and hugging, and being kind of comfortable in front of the camera. Sometimes that helps. Like if you do pre-wedding shoots, people get to know you, and they're a bit more relaxed and so on. But then it's also up to the couple how much they express themselves to each other. And during the wedding,
yes, to each other. That is really strange. It's true.
Yeah, very, very
guys, I am mindful of the time because we're already over 30 minutes, and there are many more questions that we would like to that we'd like to ask you, because we haven't even started scratching the surface, to be honest.
Yeah, this is all good content.
So it's really good, but I don't want to cut things short at any point. So I would like to, because technically we have like 10 minutes left, but we were definitely going to go over. I don't mean I could go on forever, but I am also mindful of our audience that we don't want to go too much over. So if we can get, you touched a bit on lighting, right? So I think that photography is about light, in my opinion. So can you tell us briefly, like, you mentioned even like someone saying, I really love this album, but they're getting married at a different time of day, so it completely changes the dynamics. Can you tell us a bit about this, lighting in weddings?
I think first and foremost, okay, clients always share their timeline.
Yeah.
There's someone here who commented that they moved their ceremony. Yes, do listen to your photographer.
That's my wife, actually.
Do listen to us, please. And we're not doing it to make your life more difficult or to wake you up even earlier for your hair. Far from it. We're doing it because we absolutely know a thing or two about light. And we would have imagined and pre-envisioned how light might be, and that shot of you coming out of the church, it would be great if there was a little bit of afterlight, you know. So we say these things because we really care about how we produce your images. I think one of the most difficult things to control, though, is lighting for venues. I once heard this across the grapevine, so I'm not sure whether it happened or not, but apparently there was someone who requested more lighting from a venue, and the venue owner said, told this photographer, change your camera. It's obvious that your camera is wrong if you are complaining about the lights. Now, without getting into the technicality of how a camera works, because I just know how it works for me and that's it. Okay, there is some lighting which is quite bad in venues. Okay, lighting that casts this green lighting on faces, which is totally off for any type of photography, quite frankly. So I believe that yes, wedding couples who are after having proper, decent, presented images should invest a little bit in good lighting, which is warm lighting, for example, and not the cold, stark lighting which you usually find in stadiums, for example. And that single, lonely uplighter, that is not gonna do anything for you. Yeah, actually, that sometimes can be really even worse. So without
Can I just add something? Just to summarize it a bit, when planning your wedding, basically, I think it's important to pick a church that is not underground and is, devoid of any light, because there are some really, dark churches in Malta.
And to also, to touch upon your church, and to also tell the person that is looking after the church to put on all the lights in the church.
And also, if there is a church ceremony, I think it's important to allow a bit time after the church ceremony to be able to capture photos in natural light and to do the couples photos and the group photos as well. So the church ceremony is not just right up to the time when it's getting dark. And then also to be considered like with the venue as well, to make sure that the venue has ample amount of light, and ideally light that is, kind of covering the area of the venue. And it gives a lot of nice ambient atmosphere. It could be a festoon, or it could be, these lanterns or whatever. Something that is beautifully decorated and photographs really well. So it's not just about having light; it also adds to the atmosphere. Like Jonathan, when you had your wedding, they had the really beautiful.
You recommended that. I didn't like it before. I would have never imagined having it in my wedding. But he said, "Get it. Let me show you a photo of it." And I saw the photos. I was like, "Hell yeah, that's
it works. It really works, And so it adds on to the whole ambience, and for the photos it works better. So I think it's always nice to speak to the photographer about light. If you have the option to add light or improve or change the light around, or if you have the wedding organizer or the venue who can add this on, that's really always a good thing. So I would highly recommend to speak to the photographer.
Yes, and another thing about lighting, do not forget to light the dancing area.
Yeah.
Okay, that is like one of the most epic moments within a wedding, and the band as well, because more often than not, the band are playing in the dark. They might be better than me in music, obviously, but even when it comes to having a background for the first dance, for example, at least if the background is a little bit lit up, it helps. So, you know, to a certain extent, I feel that couples should really consult a lot with photographers about lighting, because we're the, quite frankly, experts here.
Yeah. Thanks for that, guys. Another question we have is in terms of videography, right? It's like it takes two to tango. These are two of the most important elements as a memoriam of your wedding. So the video, the photo and the video. So what is your recommendation, your professional recommendation for videographers? Would you suggest a videographer to the couple, or would you let them, you know, do off their own devices and then you'll just work it out?
Okay. Well, okay.
I think for the videographers, I normally always, couples usually ask me, do you work with a videographer that you like? Do you like somebody's work? I usually always send off, you know, 2-3 recommendations with the people that I enjoy the work, and they fall within a similar style maybe of what I'm doing as well. And then it's up to them who they want to really book. You know, a Malta is small, you know, somebody always knows their cousin or their friend or this and that, you know.
Exactly. I don't work exclusively with one videographer, but I do have a list of recommended videographers who I've seen their work and I know it's good. I've worked with them and I know that they're decent, that they will help me if something comes up. I will obviously help back. And videographers who are not after themselves only and don't give and don't really care about what others are doing. So photographers and videographers have to be best friends. I mean, not necessarily having dinner every night, but you know, at least they have to know how they work. It's not the first time
so they don't step on each other's toes.
Yes, it's not the first time where I've given my list to clients and they would have chosen someone who I never met. And then I don't really mind. I'll work anyway. Come what may, I will work, even if it means having to do this to the videographer so that I get my shot then.
But obviously, it's better if there's a bit of harmony.
Yes.
There needs to be harmony. It's communication. Yeah, you have to communicate with the videographer, make sure that you are, because you're both doing the same job, you know, or you're in the same kind of situation. Not the same job, and as long as you communicate and you're friendly with each other, you know,
totally.
Usually, it's never really a problem. I never had a videographer issue.
I usually have a quick email with the videographer as well, because sometimes videographers have a habit of starting much earlier than the photographer at the bride or at the groom. So sometimes a videographer might start an hour earlier than you would have, and then you go to the groom and you find him already dressed. So more often than not, what I do is I contact the videographer to make sure that at least we approximately start at the same time, so at least we flow. So far, I have really met some great videographers, and they became friends as well. I think it was only one videographer which really didn't work with me, and it was fine.
It tends to happen. I mean,
you
can't control everything. It's just how you deal with it.
Exactly.
Yeah, you can't get along with everyone. This guy didn't want to talk to me, and I'm like, all right.
Okay. So, basically, it's clear that the more harmony there is between photographer and videographer, the better product the couple is going to get.
Yes.
So thanks for that, guys. The next question, because we're just halfway through here, because these are very important questions that we see over and over and over again with our audience. Our own audiences get hitched with just speaking to people, friends, family who are getting married, and even in wedding groups like Wedding Talk and all this. So photography services, what do they cost, and what do the costs cover? How is the cost made up? Can you give an indication? Many people think that in photography you're just shooting and that's it, but they forget that there's the post edit. There's so much work that goes involved.
Well, basically, I mean, what most photographers base their cost on is the amount of hours they're actually shooting on the wedding day, added on to the amount of hours they need or days to edit the photos afterwards. And the cost would include, you know, usually the time spent on the actual wedding day, including a certain amount of images that are finished and edited and uploaded onto a private gallery or pen drive or CD, however photographers want to deliver it. And the package usually will cover, obviously, the editing as well. Now, as you said, Ben, you know, if you spend 10 hours at a wedding, that is just the beginning of the job, you know. Then you have another days of editing after that, and that's when the real work comes in as well. And this is something that I think it's up to us as photographers to discuss this with the couple as well and explain to them, you know, this is what this entails, you know, and this is where my job begins and this is where my job ends. And I usually, you know, include in the service, you know, a web gallery. I don't deliver things on a drive or anything, but that is just my approach to it. And then if people want, you know, any albums or any add-ons or any packages on top of that, everything is adjustable, everything is flexible, you know, because all depends on which on each couple. So this is another reason why it's important to meet and not just look at the packages as they are, because everything can be customized to suit that particular wedding. So that's kind of how I work.
Cool. All right, so it is modular, and yeah, I mean, they can plug in and play basically what they need.
One thing I would like to draw attention to is, I know that some people might see wedding prices as stratospherically high. And yes, there are wedding prices that are very high, but and then there are wedding prices that are very low. So I believe that one should also consider not only the number of hours, but also whether the client wants the full images or part of the images, where the client, you know, there are some photographers who give you a selection of the images themselves. Other photographers will give you the gallery and you choose, and then you pay according to how many photographs you want. The thing is this, you cannot really choose photographers by saying who is the cheapest or who's the most expensive, because the most expensive might not necessarily be the best for you.
Yeah, very true.
Not the best overall, the best for you. The best for you. And this is the thing, you know, you have to be very clear from the very start what you are after. And if that photographer, you love his or her work, but you can't afford it, there's nothing wrong with approaching that photographer and tell him, listen, I really love your work. I really wish that but you're slightly out of my budget. Is there a way of how we can maybe make this work?
I agree. Okay?
I mean, if you put a post on Facebook, I want a very good photographer, but it has to be, but it doesn't cost too much. I mean, you're giving mixed signals there, and you're not enticing me to tell you, hey, it's me, I'm here. You know, it's a form of respect as well. I mean, we do a profession like any other professionals. We've invested in our education, you know, online learning,
webinars. I was going to mention the equipment and
you know, upgrading of equipment, but also you have to factor in that a wedding doesn't start on the day. A wedding for me starts from the previous day. I'm checking. Trust me, I am really bad with my car, but I check that my tires are not flat or run down. I check what I'm going to wear to make myself feel comfortable. I'm checking the weather. I'm making sure that I don't eat anything that will make me feel sick. You know, all these things we are factoring in for our clients. We don't just wake up, oh, I have a wedding today. All right, I'm off. I mean, you know, I wouldn't go out the previous night and get drunk when I have a wedding the next day. I don't think I'll make the wedding. Yeah, I'll be so hungover.
Angles.
Yeah, very contemporary angles.
The thing is, and this is just an opinion of mine, is sometimes photographers are taken for granted. And the reason is because anyone can buy an SLR camera for 500, 700 euros, which is kind of affordable. So they think it's just a camera that you point and shoot. But the kind of lenses and the kind of equipment that you guys have is completely different.
Yeah.
And also, you have to factor in all the years of training and experience and all these things that you mentioned, like with lighting and what difference it can make to a wedding, that come into it. So you are not just buying the photos, right? You are buying the photography services and everything that comes along with it. And that's very important to understand. And in regards to the quantity, we have one of our viewers, Mark Patch. He said, thanks for sharing this. And said, hi, Therese, just a small question with regard to the amount of images delivered. Do you have a set amount of images delivered, or do you, whatever you take, I don't recall myself, Dragana, whether we
Well,
had agreed on an amount,
it was
but
basically
when we
with the
when you said
different
it was the right amount.
with the different packages, depending on how many hours you actually spend time shooting. And then I always promise a minimum amount of edited and final images based on the package, basically. So I always try to deliver that plus always more. And you never like, I don't, if I see a good image that I took and I already delivered the amount that I promised, I'm not going to toss that image. I'm going to
exactly.
So why not to give it, you know? So that's, there isn't
I think
really
what is also important is that you deliver the images that tell the full story. Exactly. That is very important. And another thing, sometimes we might think, and this is why I give more images. Sometimes I see a photo and I say, well, this is nothing special. Maybe, you know, the bride's face is covered because this other woman is kissing her. I still give in that image because I don't know who that woman is, how important it is for the clients, etc., etc. So to a certain extent, I do understand the photographers might say, oh my God, I have to edit so much. But ultimately, this is one-time event that is happening for the couple. So as much as possible, you kind of want to give them the full story.
Can I just add something onto that? I think it's always about a quality versus quantity. You know, sure. You know, if you want me to deliver 1,500 images, it just doesn't make sense. You know, because you're just going to end up with very similar images from just maybe a different crop.
Correct.
You know? So, and also what's important, because I think you and Therese as well, we get asked from the couples, can you just give me all the photos, you know, all the raw files, everything, you know? Just,
raw
and
files.
I always say no to that, because from taking the photo in its raw format, it's only the beginning of the process. You know, the photo comes only alive once it's edited. So for you, looking at an edited photo and looking at a raw photo, you're just not going to like the raw photo. You're going to be like, why did you give me this?
Yes,
you know?
I don't give raw photos unless the client is someone who's into photography.
Yeah, properly. Or if it's a really, you know, it's your best friend and you just want to dump all the photos to them, that's fine, you know?
Yeah, and let's face it, you're going to end up it's only look at once. There's only so many photos of aunts and uncles eating cheese that you're going to watch. So it's just like, what's the point? Let them choose the right ones and eliminate the rest. You don't need them. Trust me, you don't need
just
them.
Make a good selection that tells the story, that makes sense, that is cohesive. And that's it, you know, like nobody needs to look through thousands of photos. You know, you're never going to look at them again. You're gonna, you know, even if you want to choose the photos for your own album, you're gonna maybe choose like 150, 200 photos that are good, you know, and those are the ones that you're gonna treasure in the end. You know, we have, you know, how many thousands of photos you have on your phone? Do you ever look at them? Not really. You know, you save the ones that you really like. Mm-hmm. And I see your next question as well, tied to this, Ben, regarding the time frame of the finished product. You know, once again, you know, delivering the photos, it takes time to edit. And I usually try to promise a month's delivery time after the wedding date. And I try to stick to that unless we're in the middle of, you know, June, July, August, and it's like super, super busy, or you're swamped with, you know, a line of weddings. But if I could deliver within a month, for me, it's still fresh in their minds. It's fresh in the minds of the guests, you know, and people want to see their photos. So, you know, I don't know, waiting more than a month, maximum a month and a half is a maximum for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that the same for you, Therese?
Yes, totally.
Okay.
Totally seconding.
Cool. All right, guys. We are quite over time, and there are some more questions. Sorry for being this guy, but I have to. So we still have a few more questions. We are a bit over time, and we have some questions from people in the comments that I would like to get to. Especially, I know Mark Patch has some good questions here. So switching to kind of, thanks a lot, first of all, for all the information. It's been invaluable, and this is what Mark Patch has said as well. But switching a bit more to the current situation, I know this is very important and very current information for couples as well as suppliers. So when we're talking about COVID-19, the impact, what's your take on couples, the whole situation with postponing, cancelling, deposits, bigger weddings, smaller weddings, weddings in 2020, is it 2021? What's your take?
Well,
Go, T.
Okay, let's talk deposits.
All right, so let me switch the question here.
It's not the right question, T.
Yeah, but it's deposits related to COVID.
Okay, all
Yeah,
right.
I switched it, then we can get back to that one. So
all right, okay. All right, let's
We had it ready.
You do the deposit and I'll do the other question, T.
Whatever,
Yeah.
okay. I find myself sometimes confused, you know, with these posts that people post on certain Facebook pages about, you know, mentioning the photographer and stating that it's not fair, that given the situation, you know, they're not giving deposits back. The thing is this. What people might not probably realize is that the photographer is not some rich guy or girl sitting next to his pool, you know, making free money like that. Just like other people in other professions are struggling with this pandemic and possibly lack of work, okay? So are photographers, so are videographers. So the fact that you signed a contract which stated that if you cancel the wedding, the deposit is not refundable, okay? You can maybe speak to the photographer. Okay, you have to speak to the photographer obviously for this, but possibly, okay, you might reach an agreement where half of the deposit is given back because of what is happening. But then again, that is not fair either, because you have to factor in people who have this as a full-time job, you know, at least, you know, they have the deposits to keep on working on, living on, you know. So I think it has to be a really good discussion between client and photographer about this whole deposit business, you know, because more often than not, the deposit for photography is, as far as I know, coming from my end, I never charge half of the wedding as deposit. I don't do that. So, you know, 100 or 200 euros might sound a lot for a couple, but it might be, you know, just what the photographer needs to keep on going. So I think, you know, people who post these things should stop and think, and also understand that the photographer is doing his job or her job, is keeping to the contract and is not doing anything wrong.
And there could be maybe so basically what you're saying is that there should be an open discussion, a forum, and maybe yes, the deposit is lost, but maybe that deposit money can be used towards, I don't know, on the next family birthday party. I don't know.
Can I add to that?
Go ahead, Dee.
So that's, I know that Dragana wants to discuss that question, right? So
yes, I mean, I will be very quick. Basically, you know, as long as, you know, moving your wedding date and discussing with the photographer is obviously the first step, and that the deposit is rolled over to the next wedding date. But then if you don't agree to the wedding date, or the photographer is not available, or you have to move it to another date, I always, you know, the money is not going to be lost. Because you can always do, you know, a couple shoot, you can do a pre-wedding shoot. You can also do a shoot on your actual wedding date that you were supposed to have, and use that money and also post those photos, you know, and you can do like a little mini ceremony, you know. You
like
can
a pre-wedding, you're saying, right?
Yeah, or just something special, you know. You can do a picnic together. You can exchange vows to each other without necessarily, you know, you can still be romantic, you know, and you can you
be
can
creative about it as well.
Be creative,
yes,
exactly.
Yes,
you know, and
creative.
You can that. I mean, I rather do a shoot with the couple than just to take or lose the deposit because of the, you know, we couldn't match the wedding date. So I would still offer another type of service, and I feel that. Couples, you know, you don't have to just take pictures at the wedding or just the pre-wedding, you know. You can do something fun together as well, and just let the photographer join, you know, and do a little wedding story that is supposed to be maybe your wedding day, but ended up moving, you know.
Exactly.
Have fun, get dressed, be silly, you know, and why not? So I don't think that nothing needs to be lost. And as well, Therese said, you know, for some, I mean, some wedding photographers that just do weddings, you know, they might have like thousands of euros of deposits from weddings, you know, that they probably already spent. So asking to get the deposit back for for many weddings is just gonna kill their business, and it's gonna make their life much difficult.
And if they go bankrupt, he or she won't be there for your wedding, for your brother wedding.
Yeah, I mean,
or for any other occasion.
Out, there is always a solution. As long as you communicate, there is always something you can come up with. So there shouldn't be any problem with the deposits.
I know that photographers and videographers were severely attacked about this in the beginning. Like about 4 weeks ago, everyone was going on and on and on about these deposits, and I was like wondering, okay, you're seeing your story. Have you seen my story? Do you know what I'm going through? Do you know what other people are going through? So I just want to tell the people out there, before writing something, before shaming anyone, just face them and discuss things with them without getting into the ethics, into the politics of according to this contract. You just
be nice to each other. That's all.
Yeah, be nice to each other, because the one thing we're lacking is being nice to each other.
When I see posts like this, and it doesn't have to do with weddings. This naming and shaming attitude, I think it's not nice. It's silly. And it can happen to anyone. So let's say nothing to do with weddings. You're at a restaurant and you had a bad experience there for whatever reason. Just speak to the manager. Speak to the manager. Tell them, like, this has happened. I've had the experiences before. I was shy. Now I speak to the managers, and they always kind of give something back or give a discount, or even if it's a free espresso. They appreciate it. Exactly, and anyone can have a bad day. So not just for weddings, just stop this name and shame. Just be an adult, speak to whoever you're dealing with, and I'm pretty sure that you'll come up with a better solution. And yes, do understand the suppliers, because they have already spent some time working with you, right? They already start planning. They already met you 1 time, 2 times. So that all factors in. Let's just be human to each other. Be nice.
That's all it takes. That's it. I think we got this, guys.
Okay, so to recap, basically what you're recommending, and makes all the sense in the world, is an open forum, a bit of understanding from both parties. I agree with what Therese said that you are a couple, but also the photographer or the wedding planner or the florist, whatever, they are individuals as well. And they might actually have it worse, because their business is actually going down the toilet. So they will have... we totally understand. The situation needs to be understood from both ends of the spectrum, and nothing beats communication. Usually I agree with Dragana as well. Just be nice to each other, and through communication, there's always a plan B, C, or D if you're a bit creative.
Exactly.
So that's some very good points, guys. What I do want to go on here is, before getting to the last questions from you, I'd like to share some of the comments that we've had from people. So we've got Sabrina, who said, I'm not going to say your surname, Sabrina, because I know I'm going to mess it up. So thanks for sharing this. Hi, Dragana. From Alberta, we have...
thanks, Sabrina.
Great job on content. I'm loving this episode. Mark Patch actually said, thanks for sharing. And then he said he had a question for Therese.
She replied already.
That was when I must have gotten disconnected then, so apologies. Rosie said, great advice and tips. I would have all confidence in you both at my wedding. So, okay. Mark Patch again said, it's quite a long one, so I don't know if it will show up here. But he said...
Yes, he's talking about empathy, and he said that he was lucky to have sympathetic clients who understood the situation. And this is part of customer service, guys. This is part of customer service. It's all about how you react and how you talk and how you envision.
Because that reputation follows you afterwards, you have to deal with people in a human, respectful way and in a kind way.
Totally.
It's just common sense, I think, a lot of it. And I think maybe people, when this whole situation broke up, people kind of lost their common sense, because a lot of people maybe freaking out about
there's a lot of emotion that goes into play, and we understand it from the couples. They feel that their word basically ended or stopped. It's crumbling. So we do get that part as well, and that's why I love having this talk. So for once they can hear the other side speaking about how they feel.
Can I, Ben, you had the other question in before,
Yeah, so
before the
there's this
wedding
one.
story?
Yeah, we'll ask you. So you'll have time to close off if you like. So basically, if you have any, so we can go for this one first, technically.
Yeah.
If you have any final advice to couples at this point, or anything that you'd like to add.
I would personally like to add, especially during for the next year or two, and because of the economic situation, and maybe couples are feeling the economic kind of situation in their personal lives as well. Although I understand that Malta loves big weddings, you need to invite half of the village, but I believe that also this is a good time to maybe become a bit more creative and think about outside of the box, and create weddings that maybe are not, 300, 400, 500 people. Maybe it is okay to start having weddings like a lot of other places in the world. You have weddings of 50 to 100 people. You create a more intimate situation. You choose smaller venues. You become a bit more creative with the type of venues that you do. You cut the cost down. And I believe, and I'm trying to do that as well with my new wedding site. I'm going to offer packages for smaller weddings, for shorter periods as well. So not just these, 10, 12-hour packages and with, 300, 400 guests. I believe that there is a future for the next couple of years is to plan smaller, more intimate weddings and just be a bit more creative than normal.
Totally.
Yeah, I think there is a space for that. And the same thing for the wedding organizers as well. I think it's something that they can really get into. And also, maybe do, civil ceremonies more as well, if that's what you're into, and
what you're recommending, I think, is actually a cultural paradigm shift, right? But it might, so that is so hard to do. But given the situation, which it might have, you need something so critical and so out of this world to create a paradigm shift. And maybe this is the paradigm shift that Malta would have experienced for this to happen, to have smaller weddings and all this.
And also
maybe they are forced to do so.
There's a lot of pressure that you're planning your wedding date, but then you have to invite so many people and it becomes such a huge cost. And if you can just, relieve that pressure by just allowing yourself to, to have a smaller wedding and take the pandemic as an excuse, if that's what if that makes you feel better,
Yes,
but it's a good time to do that now, I think.
I think the challenge for Maltese couples is where to create the cutoff, because we come from big families, 7 aunts and uncles on this side, 6 others on that side, all have cousins. Anyway. So yes, I think that's the most challenging part, is where to actually cut off. Yes. But from the feeling that I'm getting from your discussions, this is the second supplier who's mentioned it in 4 shows. So I am pretty sure there's going to be a shift slowly but surely to more smaller but more intimate weddings. Yeah. I've been to a few myself, and it's lovely. Everything's together.
I love it. I mean, with the foreign couples that we get, you usually have maximum 50 guests, if even that. And it's just super fun. You get to know everybody. You get to photograph everybody. Everybody has time to talk to each other. The couple has time to talk to each other, to talk to the guests as well. And I know it's a difficult thing because Malta is attached to all the family and the friends, and you grew up here. Me as a foreigner, maybe, I see that, but I also see that there is an opportunity to do something that is a little bit untraditional in that sense. Especially with the economy, that's another excuse for couples to take on this, and also for guests to understand, like, okay, well, I can't maybe come to that wedding because, it's just too expensive to do big weddings.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yes.
Yeah.
The thing is this, what couples have to keep in mind is that ultimately this is the celebration of love. So at the end of the day, at the cost of hurting or offending the parents, that long lost great aunt from Canada, she can come along, but it is about you guys, you two. You're getting married. And one of the things that I like to tell people is this, especially my couples. I tell them, when you're walking up the aisle, whichever aisle, whether it's a church aisle or a made-up one in a garden, okay, just look at each other. And just look at each other and stop fidgeting around what that woman is wearing, or whether the flower is going to fall off, or whether the dress is getting, stuck.
Look at the big picture.
Just look at each other. And sometimes, sometimes some people during venues, they have too many things. There's the candy table, there's the cocktail bar, there's this, that, and the other, and there's so many things. And the more things people do, the more things they have on their mind to take them away from enjoying the wedding day. So I would say tastefully done, simple weddings work best and will guarantee you also the best work.
Exactly.
So,
thank you so much, guys. We are definitely way over time now, and we need to bring it to a close.
Okay.
The comments, I mean, they speak volumes, because I agree that the information that we received today, that you have shared today, has been amazing for people who are going to get married, and anyone who's looking for photography, to be honest. So a lot of insight there. I did want to end the show on a bit of a fun note. So I was wondering if you could just each tell us a quick, funny wedding story that you had in your career, maybe during shooting any wedding.
I had one I think it was last summer. Yeah. I had the bride arrive out of the car, stepped out of the car onto the steps of the church, and it turns out the priest actually wasn't there. He was still sleeping. The groom was waiting inside, all the guests were sitting down, bridesmaids were there, and the priest did not show up. So half an hour later, the bride is still waiting on the church steps to get inside. And it turns out
where he was?
He was sleeping.
Hopefully not hungover.
And so actually the priest had called another priest who was living close by. So another priest just kind of showed up, changed into his outfit, and half an hour later he did a ceremony, and it wasn't the same priest.
Amazing.
Wow.
But the bride, luckily the couple had a lot of humor, so they weren't too stressed out about it. But the bride had a little bit of a, stressy moment at the steps. So I was there with her, facilitating, comforting her, keeping the positive vibes up, and until the actual second.
Amazing.
Cool.
Thanks for that. And Therese?
I don't have a super funny one, but I did have once a bridesmaid who was taking over center stage a little bit too much. So it was like all the time, she was attracted attention to have her eyelashes fixed, her hair fixed, her makeup fixed. And I remember being in the bride's bedroom and looking like this with my camera, and I'm like, who's getting married here? Who's getting married? And one thing I recommend girls, those girls who are going to be future bridesmaids, just make sure that you are not the bride. You're there, yes, not only to look pretty, but to help the bride.
Yeah.
I mean, looking pretty is great, but you need to help the bride with her veil.
There's only one star, one bride.
Exactly, only one star at a time. Only one star at a time.
Cool.
Anyway.
Okay, guys. Thank you so much for that. It's been amazing. I don't know if you have any final words that you'd like to say.
Well, I have a final word to Get Hitched, basically, because I've been part of Get Hitched for quite some time. I think from the beginning you guys started, and I just want to tell you that you guys are doing an amazing job. And I think you have changed the industry and how people look for suppliers and vendors and so on. And I love the way you guys communicate with us, and the way you improve your product, and the way you tell us about it, and how you rope us in, and how you share your business ideas with us. And it has helped me out as well, and I'm sure it's helped out with a lot of other suppliers as well. And I hope that this situation doesn't disrupt your business too much, and that we get back on our feet, all of us, and get back to work very, very soon.
Thanks, Dragana. It's so sweet of you. I appreciate it.
You guys are super cool.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, guys.
A lot of hard work go into it, and not just us, but our entire team. And don't worry, we have some big ideas of how to bounce back, and
I'm
this is one
sure.
of them. We already seen some improvements, but there's much more to come. So stay
I have
tuned.
a question for you
Looking
guys.
forward. Looking forward.
Or do you,
Shoot.
how are you seeing the requests coming over, and what is the temperature now? Like what is happening right now from your end in terms of requests and in terms of weddings for this year and next year? Do you guys have any final thoughts about that?
So if I can take this. So
Sure.
basically, we have seen, especially because of the postponing. So I'm going to be honest with you. So as a company, like most companies out there, we took a massive hit. Like in terms of sales, sales have come to a grinding halt, pretty much. Having said that, we were, in the words of our financial advisor, um, responsible, where we were in a good position to take the hits that we are taking.
That's
Um, and that's all thanks to basically the team and the sacrifices that we have had to make since the beginning, and we will continue to make. So we wanted to make sure that we continue operating, like continue surviving and hopefully thriving once this comes out of it. So some decisions that we had to make was where, for example, stop all paid advertising. But just because you stop paid advertising doesn't mean that you go off the map. These shows that we're doing are some of the best marketing that we've ever done. What is marketing? Marketing is about engaging your user,
Exactly.
and in our case, the user and the supplier. We're doing both because we're engaging with you and we're delivering content through your expertise and knowledge. We're just a medium here to get to answer their pain points, their concerns, or whatever. So we're not paying a cent for this. I mean, there was some investment that was made, but we're not talking about a €1,000 campaign on Facebook.
Not at the same level we were doing, that's for sure.
Okay.
Not at the same level. So there's that, and there's other stuff, as John mentioned, that we are going to be announcing. But we are, to answer your question, we have seen an uptick in requests being people postponing, and there is a lot of activity on the site. There are some categories where the requests are still low. And we are investigating why that is happening, because we don't understand why there might be an uptick in, I don't know, sweet stalls, but not in photography. It doesn't really make sense. So we are still investigating, but everything that we're doing, we're always trying to improve, right?
Okay.
And there's so much more that we can do. Like we've released new products like the wedding checklist, which was very popular. We've made changes even to SEO. So if you just look at like Venues Malta, you just type in Venues Malta, which is where people usually start to plan their event from. For with our sister brand on Evently, we are page 1, number 3 or 4. So there's these live shows that we're doing. We're launching a new product which is totally unrelated to weddings and to events. We will.
You have something else in the pipeline.
I think
You're always
the best thing
something.
is to keep on going. Eh? The best
Yes.
thing is always to keep on going and thinking outside the box of how you can reach your audience and so on and so forth.
Yes, and we have a good idea for weddings as well, which we will discuss after this show ends. So we'll leave
we'll
a
let
bit
you
of
know.
suspense, and we'll tell you what we have in mind. And we'll know more at the end of the week for other reasons if we'll actually proceed further with it or not. But Get Hitched is still our baby. It's our first platform. We learned a lot from it. There's still so much that we can do. And we intend to be the best wedding platform on the island, for sure.
You are.
Good luck, guys. Good luck.
So,
Well
Okay,
done.
guys.
Looking
Thank you
forward
so
to
much.
hear that.
So to close off, I just want to say this. I think this was amazing content from both of you. I think this is the go-to video for any couple looking for a photographer. And it's not about choosing Dragana or Therese, but it is about what they had to say. So if you want to choose them, of course, highly recommended, no doubt. But it's really amazing content, and the comments show. So let's wrap this up. It's been a long time. I want to thank you, both of you. It's been a blast.
Thank you, guys. We really
Thank you so
Yay.
much, guys.
Ciao,
I'm
guys.
just
Ciao,
going to
ciao.
remove you from the stream and just bring it to a close.
Ciao. Ciao.
Ciao.
Okay. All right. So there you have it, episode 4 of the Get Hitched Live Wedding Show. We went totally over time, so I do apologize, but it just flew. I mean, there were some questions here which we've been seeing, as I mentioned before, time and time again. Hopefully, as John mentioned, this would be the go-to video to answer these questions once and for all. We'll also make sure that we put it on our blog and share it with couples if need be, that are still planning their wedding. Thanks so much to Dragana. Thanks so much to Therese. Has been an amazing show. Thank you so much for your insight. We're very excited to have already, I don't know, over 1,000 viewers on the show from what I could see. So again, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you at the next one. Take it easy and have a great day. Bye-bye.